They were linked by someone named Paolo Zampoli, who's become an ambassador under Donald Trump, a high-ranking government official. Melania arrived in the United States from Slovenia in 1996 for modeling work, and then she obtained her green card around 2001 based on her extraordinary ability as a model. So Donald Trump meets Melania at the Kit Kat Club, and then they develop a relationship with each other. And then let's talk about what happened.
Melania Trump, a former model with gorgeous photo shoots, now finds Russia digging up her past for a laugh. But here's the twist. She once defended those pictures herself. Curious why Russia doesn't even need deep fakes to troll the Trumps? Let's break it down. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What happens when the Kremlin trolls the Trumps with nothing but the truth? Well, Russian state TV decided to air some of Melania Trump's most revealing modeling photos right there on live television. While the hosts reportedly had themselves a laugh about America's former First Lady, the message wasn't lost on anyone. They didn't have to Photoshop a thing to score their cheap shots. Melania's glossy pre-Trump career provided all the content they needed.
Melania was a model from Eastern Europe who was brought to the United States, who would attend these parties where the rich men would show up and mingle with the model. Melania's previously made posts about how proud she is of her nudes, but did you know that after Donald Trump and Melania met, she got what was called an Einstein visa? Right now, Russia, it's weaponizing Melania's past. I don't know if you know this, but on Russian TV, they frequently show Melania nude in order to mock Donald Trump.
Trump's image has always depended on a precarious balancing act. His supporters have spent years trying to sell the idea that the Trump family is the gold standard of evangelical conservative values. Traditional, patriotic, family-oriented, but Melania's past doesn't exactly harmonize with that tune. The same photos that Russian media splashed all over their broadcasts were once published proudly during her modeling career, which was less about leaving things to the imagination and more about, well, showcasing what God or her gym routine blessed her with. This is a far cry from the idealized conservative First Lady narrative many tried to spin. And it all started at the Kit Kat Club. No, not the family-friendly kind of club that sounds like it involves sandwiches and juice boxes.
Melania, Donald Trump's dark past, it's resurfacing in ways it's his worst nightmare. Donald Trump went to a club in Manhattan called the Kit Kat Club, where there were parties that were frequently thrown for very rich Manhattan elites, businessmen. How did Donald Trump meet Melania? On or around the same time he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
This one was a nightclub in Manhattan where Melania first met Donald during a Fashion Week party. Here's where it gets weirder. The man behind their introduction, Italian businessman Paolo Zampoli, allegedly had a knack for connecting prominent men with European beauties, and Melania was no exception. So that's how Trump's self-proclaimed dynasty kicks off. Not at a church social or a glamorous gala, but at what some might call a matchmaking party with a hint of, shall we say, transactional networking. What happens next is just as unconventional as that first meeting. Paolo Zampoli didn't just connect the pair socially, he also helped Melania obtain her visa to work in the United States, a process that would later raise serious questions. She didn't just get any visa, she secured what's popularly referred to as the Einstein visa, a designation for individuals with extraordinary abilities. You'd expect that kind of visa to go to groundbreaking scientists or Olympic gold medalists, not a model who hadn't hit Forbes magazine, or any major scientific journal for that matter. This bit of her history has always raised eyebrows. After all, extraordinary abilities? That's the same label applied to Nobel Prize winners. Unless looking great in couture suddenly qualifies someone for historic contributions to humanity, people have questions.
She was treated like a genius, an exceptional achievement visa that gave her a fast track to become a United States citizen. This is 1997. How sweet. Trump's Brit of all right. Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's best-known billionaire Donald Trump has fallen under the spell of a 20-year-old English girl. So was before Melania, when he met London model Anuska DeGiorgio at a party in Manhattan. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anuska, but she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine.
There's more. After Melania became a U.S. citizen in 2006, she quickly turned the tables to bring her parents, Victor and Amalia, to the States under a process casually referred to as chain migration. This stands out because her husband, the king of anti-immigration rhetoric, spent years railing against this system. Remember the chants of build the wall. Remember the crackdown on immigrants seeking family-based visas. And yet, Melania's parents quietly slipped into the country through the very system Trump demonized. If there's hypocrisy to be found there, Russian media certainly noticed, and judging by their recent trolling, they're savoring every moment. Now, here comes the million-dollar question. Was this public mocking of Melania part of a grander strategy to humiliate Trump on a global scale? Let's be honest, Vladimir Putin isn't exactly known for his subtlety. Stirring political chaos in the United States is practically one of his hobbies. But even if this is part of some grand Russian chess game, the reality is they didn't even have to make anything up. Russia hasn't invented a scandal. They've simply dusted off receipts from Melania's own closet and turned them into primetime entertainment. Here's where it gets even more ironic. Melania's relationship with Trump and her actions during her time in the White House add a whole new layer of absurdity to the Kremlin's trolling. This is a woman who partially built her first lady image on stoicism and mystery, barely indulging in public affection with her husband, half smiling through photo ops, and fielding endless rumors about how little she actually enjoyed her role. Now imagine those same images of her looking stone-faced next to Trump being juxtaposed with pictures of her pre-White House modeling days on Russian TV. It's almost cartoonishly on the nose.
Donald Trump's out there doing that, and then Donald Trump's out there going to these parties at the Kit Kat Club to meet. This is separate than what I just said. This is separate. He's just going out there to meet, these young models. In 1997, he's out there partying with Epstein and Ghislaine. So Donald Trump goes to the Kit Kat Club, and let's just see the story as reported by the New York Times about how Donald and Melania met at the Kit Kat Club.
So what to make of it? Maybe, just maybe, Russia doesn't need clever propaganda to strike a nerve. All they have to do is shine a spotlight on bits of the Trump family history that were either conveniently ignored or awkwardly swept under the rug. And when those bits get lit up under the glare of international attention, that balancing act Trump's allies worked so hard to maintain might wobble even harder than a Jenga tower in a hurricane. What do a plagiarized speech, overpriced NFTs, and a Be Best campaign have in common? They all sum up the contradiction known as Melania Trump. As First Lady, Melania tried to rebrand herself, pivoting from a quiet life of high fashion and glossy covers to a role that demanded leadership and public service. But instead of emerging as a trailblazer, she stepped into a legacy defined by half-hearted efforts, bizarre contradictions, and endless controversy. Take her Be Best campaign, the anti-bullying initiative that supposedly focused on kindness, online safety, and children's mental health. Great in theory, right? Except for the part where her husband was the undisputed internet bully-in-chief. While Melania spoke about civility, Donald was busy tweeting insults like an unhinged keyboard warrior, and her own track record didn't help. One example? She amplified Trump's birther conspiracy, questioning whether Barack Obama was born in the US. She wasn't just a bystander to this widely debunked attack, she was described as the chief booster of the Obama birther hoax. Kindness and respect. That campaign slogan didn't last long under a microscope.
So Melania gets the expedited path based on an Einstein visa after meeting Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club. Then she brings in her family, and now Donald Trump's against all of those same policies. Melania and Donald, they would hang out with. That's Karen McDougal right there, who Donald Trump eventually cheated on Melania with right after Melania gave birth to Barron. You can see right there. Melania Trump used a legal pathway that her husband and his top advisors has repeatedly disparaged as chain migration, the right of U.S. citizens to bring their parents to the United States.
Of course, one can't discuss Melania's public persona without mentioning her debut as First Lady, which began with a splash, and by splash, I mean plagiarism. Her Republican National Convention speech was lifted almost word for word from Michelle Obama's address years prior. You have to admit, for someone promoting creativity and originality through her platform, copying Michelle wasn't the best first impression. And let's not ignore the irony of this happening after she, alongside Trump, obsessively questioned Obama's identity. It's like a bad sitcom where someone steals the idea they publicly mocked. Her contradictions didn't end after leaving the White House. If anything, they grew louder. Post-First Lady Melania has leaned unapologetically into the art of monetizing her infamy. For instance, she started selling NFT art, including a digital rose named the Meta Rose. Price tag? $150 a pop. It's unclear who was buying, but the reception wasn't exactly warm. Critics pointed out the move's shamelessness, with some asking why the Meta Rose didn't include a meta explanation for what exactly she's doing with her life now. The disconnect isn't just glaring, it's comical. For someone who entered the White House vowing to remain true to herself, Melania's actions paint a picture of someone who's more interested in profiting than proving a point. And despite the curated silence and ever-present sunglasses, the message couldn't be clearer. She's never been about substance, whether as a first lady or in her post-White House ventures. It's hypocrisy served with a side of glamour. Melania once said her favorite memory as First Lady wasn't about policy or tradition, but Trump's COVID hospitalization. While Donald was airlifted to Walter Reed, she reportedly enjoyed the quiet by hosting a party in the Lincoln bedroom, joking, "I had Lincoln bedroom all to myself and did not sleep, wink too many smiling." The irony is hard to miss. Her most peaceful moments came from Trump's absence. If even Melania seems checked out, what does it say about the Trump brand? The empire that began with glitz is crumbling faster than her smile at a campaign rally. What's next?